Again that peculiar smell of old medicine and unwashed floors made Victor wrinkle his nose in disgust as he stepped over the threshold. Natalia was wiping up spilled broth by her mother's bed, feeling the ache in her lower back after yet another sleepless night. Instead of criticizing, "You could pick up a mop and help," her sister replied softly, without lifting her reddened eyes. "I've just come off the road, I'm exhausted, and I have a meeting in 2 hours," her brother waved her off, throwing an expensive leather jacket onto the shabby armchair in the hallway. A weak voice sounded from the bedroom. Helena was calling her beloved son. At once, he softened his tone, walked into the room, and held in his hands a crinkling bag with cheap wafers and overripe bananas. Silently, the sister gathered the dirty rags and carried them to the bathroom. Her back throbbed. Her hands smelled of bleach and old age. For the 3rd year in a row, life had felt like a never-ending Groundhog Day. Injections, procedures, feeding with a spoon, endless washing of diapers. The old kettle whistled loudly in the kitchen. Her brother came out of their mother's room, looked proprietarily into the half-empty refrigerator, and pulled out a pot of borscht. "Why is there so little meat?" he asked in annoyance, ladling himself a full plate. "A sick person needs protein, and you're making these empty vegetable soups." The woman sat down across from him, resting her chin on her hand. "Pork costs 250 hryvnias per kilogram. The pension is enough only for utilities and half the pills. The rest I cover from my salary, which barely keeps me afloat because I work remotely at half-time." "You need to learn how to budget," he said. "Victor, give me 5,000 for cardiac medication. The course ends tomorrow. Stopping treatment would be fatal." The man nearly choked, set down his spoon, and carefully wiped his lips with a paper napkin. "Where am I supposed to get sums like that? The little one has a kindergarten graduation soon. My wife needs new spring shoes. You're here all day long. You don't spend anything on transport or calves. You could have saved up a little." Her patience snapped at once. Years of suppressed anger, exhaustion, and despair burst out in one flood. Natalia abruptly stood, pushing her chair back so hard it screeched against the linoleum. "No expenses?" Her voice trembled traitorously, but there were no tears. Only dry, burning fury. "I've forgotten when I last bought myself new clothes. I've forgotten what the center of Zhytomyr looks like because I haven't gone farther than the nearest pharmacy in Krasnia for years. You come once every 2 months, bring cookies worth 30 hryvnias, eat my lunch, and lecture me on how to live. Why are you shouting? You'll scare Mom." He tried to cut the conversation short, nervously glancing toward the corridor. "Fine. Starting Monday, I'm beginning massage courses. I paid for them a year ago, but kept postponing because of Mom's crises. Now it's your turn to carry this cross." "What do you mean, my turn? I work. I have a business. Take unpaid leave or hire a professional caregiver with your own money. For 1 month, you will live here and do everything I've been doing for free. Otherwise, I'm packing my things, locking the door, and leaving the keys with the neighbors." Her brother took it as a bad joke. First he tried to turn the conflict into a calm conversation, then he appealed to her conscience, invoked a son's duty, and spoke grandly about family values. The sick woman in the room also raised her voice, sobbing that her own daughter wanted to drive her to the grave. But the decision had already hardened inside Natalia. The next morning, she silently packed a small travel bag, put in her notebook, a few t-shirts, and track pants, left a detailed schedule for taking the medication, a list of the family doctor's phone numbers, and an empty wallet for grocery expenses on the kitchen table. When her brother realized she was serious and saw the taxi outside the window, his face flushed red with outrage. "You'll regret this circus," he shouted after her. Natalia got into the back seat without a word. For the first time in a long while, the air felt clean, and breathing became a little easier. She arranged to stay for a month with a school friend who rented out a room. The training center was located near Victory Square. The bright, spacious classroom, brand new massage tables, the faint scent of essential oils, and not a trace of illness or old age. All felt like another world. The group consisted of 10 people of different ages. The instructor walked in precisely at 10. Tall, composed, with an attentive, calm gaze. "Good morning. My name is Iyer Mykolaievich. I'm a rehabilitation doctor and your instructor for the next 4 weeks." A demanding theory lesson began. Anatomy, physiology, the detailed structure of the muscular corset. Natalia diligently wrote down every word, trying to push away anxious thoughts about whether her relative had given her mother her morning blood pressure pills. Her smartphone lay on the table in silent mode. During the break, the screen lit up with 5 missed calls. There was no point calling back. The practical part required constant pair work. Natalia was assigned a talkative girl named Alina, who kept getting distracted by messages. When it was time to practice basic back massage techniques, her hands quickly grew tired from lack of practice. Her fingers refused to obey, her movements were jerky and uncertain. The instructor approached the massage table silently. "Stop for a moment," Iyer said in a steady voice, standing right beside her. "You're working only with your wrists, so you're losing strength too quickly. You need to engage the weight of your whole body." He carefully placed his broad hands over hers. A pleasant warmth spread through her, along with the unshakable confidence of a professional. "Like this, shift your center of gravity smoothly. Don't tense your shoulder girdle. Massage is a dance, not heavy lifting." Natalia flushed deeply, suddenly embarrassed by the close presence of a stranger. But his advice worked at once. The work became much easier, and the pain in her joints disappeared. After class, the instructor held her tired face in a long, attentive look. "You have strong hands, but far too much inner tension. Don't forget to rest properly after practice." "I'll definitely try," she replied briefly, lowering her gaze. The first week of independent life passed as if in a fog. She returned to the rented apartment late in the evening, collapsed onto the bed, and fell asleep at once. But in class, a true moral rebirth was taking place. New medical knowledge absorbed her mind. Her body was learning to sense another person's pain with care, without destroying her own psyche in the process. On the 3rd day of the ultimatum, Victor called during her lunch break. His voice trembled with open hysteria. Their mother refused to eat oatmeal and was demanding some special steamed cutlets. He had no idea how to make them. And the diapers had run out. Where had she been buying them? At the pharmacy near Zitny Market, 340 hryvnias per pack. "The cutlets are in the freezer. I made them in advance before leaving. You just need to put them in the steamer for 20 minutes. 340? That's daylight robbery." Natalia calmly hung up, feeling a strange mixture of guilt and bitter satisfaction. For 3 long years, these everyday problems had been nobody's concern. Her family sincerely believed that dietary foods materialized in the refrigerator by themselves and that sterile cleanliness maintained itself by magic. One day, after a particularly intense lecture, a heavy spring rain began. Public transport came to a halt. Pedestrians crowded under the narrow awnings of closed shops. Natalia stood at the entrance to the training center, staring helplessly at the solid gray wall of rain. Of course, no one had thought to check whether her umbrella would be enough for this. A black car slowly pulled up beside her. The tinted window lowered. "Get in quickly, I'll drive you. And while we're at it, you can tell me in detail why you were pressing so hard on the patient's cervical spine during practice," Iyer said with a friendly smile. There was no reason to refuse. The clean interior smelled of strong coffee and something faintly, pleasantly masculine. On the way, they talked more easily than she had expected. First they discussed the complex physiology of joints, and then, almost unnoticed, they moved on to ordinary life. Iyer turned out to be an exceptionally attentive listener. He didn't interrupt, didn't preach, just listened and nodded now and then. Natalia didn't even realize when she had told him about her seriously ill mother, her selfish brother, and the crushing exhaustion of the past several years. I understand you very well, the man said quietly, stopping at a red light. I've had a very similar bitter experience. My father was ill for a long time after an accident. The main iron rule of any rescuer is this. Put the oxygen mask on yourself first, otherwise both will die. The next week, the group practiced therapeutic massage of the neck and shoulder area. Iyer offered the best student to serve as the model for a live demonstration. Natalia sat down timidly on the special chair, painfully aware of the entire class watching. But the moment his strong, warm fingers confidently touched the hardened muscles of her neck, her embarrassment vanished at once. Only a deep, intoxicating sense of relief remained. The old pain that had lived between her shoulder blades for years began to dissolve slowly beneath his professional touch. Pay special attention to the trapezius muscle, the instructor commented for the interested students. This is where the greatest amount of chronic stress accumulates. People quite literally carry all their unresolved problems on their shoulders. Careful, precisely measured movements released one muscle block after another. Natalia closed her eyes in bliss. She wanted this moment of peace to last forever. After class, the instructor came a little closer and asked softly, "How are you feeling?" "Like I've just dropped a sack of cement," she smiled sincerely. "Thank you so much. Tomorrow is Saturday. There are no classes on the schedule. If you have time, we could have coffee." A decent new CAF opened in the city center, with its own pastry kitchen. The invitation sounded completely simple, without the slightest hint of pressure or hidden meaning. Her heart gave a frightened little thump. Somewhere in another reality, an enraged brother was raging in hysteria and a dissatisfied mother was manipulating her with guilt. But for the first time in many months, Natalia wanted to do something solely for herself. "I'd like that." They met near the drama theater. The gentle spring sun was warm on their faces. The people of Zhytomyr walked unhurriedly along the pedestrian Mykolivska street. Iyer arrived on time, without cliché flowers or unnecessary theatricality, dressed in comfortable dark jeans and a light sweater. They bought hot drinks and sat on a wooden bench in a quiet square. The conversation flowed with surprising ease. He spoke enthusiastically about his daily work at a private rehabilitation center, about difficult patients who slowly learn to walk again step by step. Natalia shared vivid impressions of her intensive studies. It turned out that they both hated noisy crowds, loved old black and white films, and drank strong black tea without sugar. "You know," the woman admitted honestly, warming her chilled hands around a cardboard cup, "I hesitated for a very long time about whether I should even go to these courses. It felt like I had no moral right to leave a sick person, even for a few hours. Toxic guilt is the worst life advisor. Your mother truly needs professional help, but you are by no means omnipotent. Any resource can run dry. Has your relative finally understood that?" "I doubt it very much. He's simply counting the days until the month is over, so he can cowardly run back to his comfortable life and once again lecture me over the phone without consequence." "Then don't let him.